Greetings, once again. We are the founders, happy to help illuminate your path of awakening. Yesterday we began the discourse on the true history of your planet, but we didn't get very far, only to the point where the humanoid form began propagating throughout the universe. This form you have come to know so well, with its arms, legs, torso, head, etc., was the result of genetic experimentation and research comprising a very long period of time, about 900 million of your Earth years. During that time, all manner of exotic life forms were created by permutating the DNA strands and structures. Most of the animal life you are familiar with was brought forth as a side effect of this research. Forgive us, but we are going to back up a bit. This is a vast subject to most of your peoples and we do not want to leave anything out. Life exists in many forms, some of which you would not even recognize if it were right in front of you. There are carbon-based life forms, silicon-based life forms, and even lithium-based life forms. These are sentient beings with at least a rudimentary understanding and awareness of their presence and the love of the Creator. All life began in the simplest of states. As we mentioned briefly in part 1, even hydrogen has a level of awareness. The Creator, in the form of us, began experimenting with different life forms. We found we could take the rudimentary consciousness of a hydrogen atom, or a heavier metallic element, and permutate the atomic structure, thus creating new and varying forms of life. All life forms we created had a natural tendency to become more organized over time, and more sophisticated, gradually growing in self-awareness. The natural evolution of life forms followed what you call the Darwinian evolutionary model. All of our experiments, and the experiments of other groups like us, were represented by mutations or periods punctuated with intense growth and alteration of form and structure. Your scientists do not understand why there are so many mutations and alterations in living organisms. We are offering an explanation. As life began evolving from first density up through the various mineral and plant stages, there eventually came a level of sophistication and awareness, known as the animal stage, wherein it became possible for the higher density souls to incarnate directly into the flesh and blood of these evolving life forms. This is a part that is hard to understand for most of you, but it is as if a tiny fragment of yourself, the animal consciousness, was reunited with a larger part of yourself, your 7D consciousness. To incarnate into an animal form, the tiny aspect, the consciousness of the animal, would have to merge with the larger aspect, the consciousness of the incarnating soul. The cosmic in-breath involves the merging and assimilating of soul fragments into larger and larger conglomerations of consciousness. Incarnation is one way this process is accomplished. The pinnacle of this evolutionary process is the humanoid form. This humanoid form you find yourselves embodying was originally designed to be capable of experiencing 7 different dimensions simultaneously. It had the capability to sit, stand, walk, run, leap, fly, and teleport itself from one place to another. All of these were considered valuable experiences of physicality and ethereality, for this body you inhabit was quasi-physical in the sense that it could be made translucent and fluid, or it could be as solid as you experience it now. This body was designed specifically to work with the gravitational and electromagnetic fields of evolving planets, and its density could be shifted at will from the 1st through 7th level. During the 900 million year period of experimentation, there were many strange and exotic forms walking upon your planet. You are familiar with some of them, including the dinosaurs. These DNA forms were created as byproducts of our research, and the research of other groups who worked with us. There was a period known in your mythology as the Land of Pan. This civilization took place near the beginning of the 100 million year cycle, which is, incidentally, about 1/2 of the revolution of your sun around the central sun of your galaxy. During the time of Pan, or Paea, as it is sometimes called, the DNA experimentation was still going on, and there were no safeguards built into the Earth laboratory. This meant that various life forms could interbreed and create other exotic blends and hybrids. You are perhaps familiar with the Pegasus and Centaur and other creatures resembling a cross between horses and man, or horses and angels. There were many bizarre creatures roaming your world, all the product of genetic experimentation and interspecies breeding. Embedded within the genetic codes of every species was the infinite Creator's plan of evolution, known as the in-breath of creation. The in-breath of creation issues forth the universal law of increasing intelligence and self-awareness. All life forms during the in-breath have a blueprint of ascension along the evolutionary spiral, and so as the bizarre life forms of Pan began to grow in awareness, they developed various levels of judgment and discernment, through various mental and emotional faculties. They began to become aware of their Creator, and they also began to become aware that they were spirits embedded in various physical and etheric forms. As sparks of the original undifferentiated source energy, they felt a longing to return to that source. They began to realize that a part of that source had split off from the vastness of love and light, and was going through this outer experience of embodiment. This is the allegorical reference to the tree of knowledge of good and evil in your religious teachings. These life forms were given the realm of creation in which to learn how to become gods in their own right. This realm is known as the fourth dimension, or the realm of mind and knowledge and imagination. Within the blueprint of every life form is the desire to create like the Creator, just as within every child born of a human parent are the potentialities, hopes and desires of the parents. Every spark of divinity, as it experienced the various physical embodiments and species, was also developing its desire to become the Creator. The infinite Creator made a decision, a long time ago in earthly terms, to place no limits on what could be created by its fledgling children. This was known as the law of free will, and this law has been the source of all pain and misery upon your world and countless others. The Creator gave each one of you the ability to create unlike the perfect blueprint. Within your fourth-dimensional canvas, you could paint any picture you desired, from the lovely to the grotesque. The Creator wanted to experience every conceivable idea and see it manifest on the canvas of the imagination. And so it is that many of the Creator's fledgling life forms experimented with their own DNA to the point of creating misshapen, malformed and convoluted creatures, with similar convoluted mental processes. Many of the sparks of divinity souls who ventured into these uncharted realms became so mesmerized by their own creations that they forgot they were seventh-density beings of the Creator's light and love. As they became more and more immersed in these lower densities, they became identified with the physicality and ethereality of these realms. This is referred to in your religious teachings as the original fall from grace. The popular present-day analogy on your world would be the experience of going into a movie theater. When you are deeply engrossed in the movie, you forget about the outside world, until the movie is over, and then you wander, dazed and confused, out of the movie theater, slowly piecing together the reality you left just 2 hours earlier. However, in the case of your fall, the 2 hours is more like 100 million years. So, beloveds, we have two processes unfolding here. The first is the process of evolution, from a tiny spark of divinity that begins as inanimate objects of first density and slowly evolves through more and more sophisticated levels of genetic configurations, eventually making its way back to the Godhead. Then, at the same time, we have the process of devolution, wherein souls differentiate out of the Godhead as 12th density beings of light and gradually drop their vibration down until they reach the 7th density, wherein they take the form of luminous beings of light. It is at that point that they then differentiate further through the process of incarnation, until they are able to experience all the levels of evolution, from a grain of sand to the source from whence they came. In future segments of this discussion, we will examine how evolution and devolution are intertwined and how souls possessing free will have the capabilities of entering into any level or dimension of creation and experiencing that level or levels. We will also continue with the history of your Earth, examining the civilizations that have come and gone from your world over time, and we will explore the various star races that have incarnated and invaded your world and influenced the life forms evolving on Earth.